Secretary and UC Berkeley Professor of Public Policy, Robert Reich, author of Saving Capitalism for the Many, Not the Few, and with us again, CNN political commentator and Trump supporter Jeffrey Lord. Secretary Reich, I mean, what do you make of this? Is this a step that Congress should take, trying to obtain the president's tax returns?
I do think it is a very important step that Congress should take. And in terms of it being an administrative matter, I can't imagine a more important administrative matter than making sure that our president has not been engaged with a foreign power, in this case Russia, in basically loading the election and turning the election to his favor. Now, I'm not saying that he's done that, but a lot of evidence is accumulating, Anderson, and every day that goes by, the distrust of the public grows. And I think one important step that Donald Trump has to make is to disclose his taxes. In 2008, for example, Donald Trump Jr. told a real estate conference that Russian money is pouring into the Trump organization and that a disproportionate cross-section of their assets come from Russia. Presumably he was talking about Russian tycoons and oligarchs. Well, that's important information. That would show up in the tax returns, because you can see in terms of interest on loans exactly who Trump owes money to. I mean, I can't imagine a more important set of issues here.
My understanding on what he was actually referring to was, I guess, a very rich Russian guy bought one of the mansion from the Trumps in Florida, paid a huge amount of money for it. My understanding, that's what he was referring to. But again, we don't know for sure because we don't really know the extent of any business dealings they may or may not.
And we need to know. I mean, Anderson, if this were just an idle kind of question about, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have tax returns? It's too bad Donald Trump violated and broke the tradition for 40 years. That would be one thing. But we are in the midst of a potential constitutional crisis. There's possibly treasonous behavior in terms of staff members, or perhaps Donald Trump himself, working with Russia and Russian operatives to actually interfere in the United States 2016 presidential election on behalf of Donald Trump.
Jeffrey, you don't seem as concerned.
No, there's two words for this, Anderson. It's called fishing expedition. The reason to release his taxes, as far as his opponents are concerned and the media is concerned, is so they can, plow through them and say, oh, look at this, look at this, look at this, and then, maybe we should have an investigation here, maybe we should have an investigation here. I have said, as you know, all along, he should never release his taxes. I think we have gotten way off the mark with public officials releasing their taxes here. We've had plenty of presidents of the United States, most of them, 36 of them, I think, by count, who never released their taxes. And the country survived just fine. I think we should get back to it. They have a right to privacy. Leave them alone.
Right, but given all the questions raised about Russia, even with that?
If you want to investigate the Russian thing, then let's do it. Let's investigate the intelligence community, the leaks, the whole 9 yards. Let's go in that direction. But I just think that his taxes, I mean, I just...
Why wouldn't you have an investigation?
Let me just say something. Go ahead. I think it is very, very difficult right now for the American public to rely on Intelligence Committee, which is dominated by Republicans, or even rely necessarily on the FBI, which reports to the new Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, who was a key player in Donald Trump's election and campaign. What you need to do is have a bipartisan investigation. Part of that investigation has got to be to look at Donald Trump's taxes.
Well, Mr. Secretary, I mean, I just don't think that this is very productive, and this sets a horrible precedent. I mean, why should we be going into anybody's taxes? If you want to look at taxes...
What could be more productive than to make sure that our system of elections in 2016, our presidential election, was not violated in terms of the integrity of that election?
Getting the economy back on gear? I mean, I think all of those things. Earlier, we played clips of various people, including President Trump, saying that people didn't care. The only people who seem to care about that, I think the president's right, is the media and his opponents. But the people who voted for him...
Wait a minute. This makes no sense at all. If you say, first of all, the assertion that the people don't seem to care is just an assertion. And right now,
he's elected. He's president of the United States.
If the people are getting more and more information that Donald Trump's aides and people who were in his campaign were in continuous contact with Russian operatives at a time when we know Russia was was intervening in
You
the
don't have
election
any proof
on
of
Trump's
this.
behalf. Well, then I'm sorry. A lot of Americans do have an interest in those tax returns, and they have a lot of interest in knowing what was going on. There is nothing more sacred than our election and our democratic process.
Jeffrey Lord, couldn't Donald Trump just alleviate all this by saying, you know what, here are all the contacts people in my campaign had. Here are the phone conversations. Here are the Russians. Why not do that?
I mean, the implication here, the sinister implication, is that he was conspiring with the Russians.
No, I mean, I don't know what
I know.
we don't know what the implication is. So why not just come forward and say?
I think as I see these stories develop, listening.
But why not just come forward and say, here are the contacts that were had?
I mean, I just don't think it's that big a deal. I don't think it's. But
if you don't think it's a big deal, wait a minute.
If we're going to make it a big deal, Mr. Secretary, then let's investigate it. Let's get all this intelligence stuff out there on the table.
Some of us actually remember Richard Nixon and a 3-bit, 2-bit burglary in the Watergate complex. The cover-up was almost worse than the crime.
I'm glad you mentioned
it. The question everybody asked is, what did Nixon know and when did he know it?
Okay.
Well, everybody is now asking, what did Trump know and when did he know it?
Robert Reich, appreciate it, Mr. Secretary.